Hi, this is Jenny Langley, author of the new Maudsley Training Manual. In this video, we're looking at worksheet 4.4.1, which is exploring more the open questions of OARS. We'll look at different types of questions just so you can sort of get the idea of why some questions might lead to an immediate end to the conversation or might shut the conversation short, whereas open questions can open the door. Even if you only get a grunt as an answer, it kind of sows the seed in the sufferer's mind that that you are interested and you're there to talk if and when they want to. Very often sufferers say, I couldn't respond at the time, but I heard every word. So it really helped me when my carers kept giving me openings that we could then have a conversation. Okay, so there's lots of different types of questions. So a closed question is a question that typically would be answered with a yes or a no. So are you going to eat what's on your plate? No. Yes, whatever. And these are normal in everyday speech, but for the sufferer who's feeling super sensitive, it can be like a slap in the face to them. It's like, you know, you don't care, you don't understand me, you're not listening, you're not trying, etc., etc. Open questions, on the other hand, invite the person to give their point of view. So help me understand is a good open question. I'm curious to know, or what can we do together that might make this easier for you? So how, what, help me understand, I'm curious, are really, really good openings, even if you don't get a direct response. Leading questions, try to avoid these. This is where we say, don't you think that? And what we're conveying when we say, don't you think that, is that I think you should do this. And obviously, nobody likes being told what to do, but particularly super sensitive sufferers with eating disorders really don't like you telling them what you think they should do. It can give the impression we don't care what they really think and that they're not capable of making their own decisions. So it can really shut down the conversation very quickly. Now, if they want you to tell them what you think, then it's really important to just check and ask their permission. So you want me to tell you what I think, and then try to make it from a third party. So I've learned that, or the book says, or the consultant says, or my friend who had a daughter with an eating disorder who's better now told me that. So it's not what you think, it's kind of a more general. Why questions can feel really critical. So why won't you eat it? Why haven't you gone to the doctor? Why did you just do that? Can come across as very, very judgmental. So we try not to say why. I mean, obviously sometimes it pops out and that's fine, but we try to avoid whys and also buts in our conversation if we at all can, because they just tend to be a little bit inflammatory and kind of shut the door. Solution focused questions. So these are really great when the sufferer is ready to start to think about making their own changes. So if they're in pre-contemplation, solution focused questions aren't going to work because you'll just be shutting down the conversation because they just won't really understand what you're trying to do. If they're in contemplation, it might rush them a bit too much because you're seeing a green shoot that maybe they're thinking about making changes, but they're actually not ready. So they really need to be in preparation or even in action for solution-focused questioning to really work. But so it might be, what specifically could you do to get started? If they're saying, I'd really like to try to add more variety to my meals, or I'd really like to try to reduce my exercise regime, or I'd really like to plan for going to university, that's when solution-focused questionings can really, really be helpful. But don't rush too quickly with solution-focused questioning. Solution-focused questionings can be really, really useful for carers talking to each other if they're talking about, so on reflection, we can see that maybe, typically mum might be being kangaroo-like and dad might be being rhino-like, or mum might be jellyfish, dad might be ostrich or terrier or something like that. So it can be really useful for carers to use solution-focused questions with each others in terms of, okay, let's make some changes and let's run through the list of solution-focused questioning that we offer you in the workshops. So that'll be in a later video. Going back to the pre-contemplation, so useful questions when the sufferer is in pre-contemplation might just be really general questions about the big picture of life. So tell me about your day. So rather than rushing into what did you eat today, tell me about your day. And then it gives them the opportunity to tell you about things they might have done that were enjoyable, or that they, talking about politics or funny dog video or something like that can be really helpful to keep that connection going, not just always focusing on the illness. help me understand the benefits of staying in your current position. Now, if they're in pre-contemplation, they might just go, what are you on about? If they're in contemplation, so it could be a test of like, where are they, pre-contemplation or contemplation, they might be able to tell you both the benefits and the some negatives. But if they're in pre-contemplation, they'll give you all of the benefits of where they are. So I like the way I look, I can really focus on my exams, my friends think I look amazing, I feel safe and in control, so lots and lots of benefits. So we did that, didn't we, in module 2 with the benefits of the eating disorder. What do you think about our plans for the holidays, for example? So again, thinking ahead to pleasurable times rather than always focusing on the fact that you're worried about the fact they're ill. Obviously you can't ignore the illness, but it's really important that carers don't just focus all their attention on the illness and none of their attention on the bigger picture and the pleasurable things in life. Okay, so then we look at some specific questions and say, are they open or closed? And if they're closed, let's reframe them as open. So this is what we do in the workshops. So first one, what are the good and not so good aspects of controlling your diet? So obviously that's an open question. It's inviting the sufferer to elaborate on the answer. And that might be something where the decisional balance would be really useful if they're ready to start to think about the good and the not so good aspects. Maybe you've seen that sort of green shoot, that they're ready to start thinking about making changes. Question number 2, are you going to finish what's on your plate this time? Closed question, no, I'm not, or yes, I am. So how could we reframe that as open? So is there anything I can do to help you finish your meal? They could say no, but the spirit is open, isn't it? Can you think of any ways to help yourself finish your meal? So you're asking for their opinion. Can you think of any ways I can help you finish your meal? So again, you're asking for their opinion. Of course, they might just grunt and not answer, but you're opening the conversation. Number 3, when are you going to admit that you have anorexia? So in theory, that's an open question because you're saying when, but it kind of comes across as closed because it's almost like when are you going to admit? Sort of like, will you admit you have anorexia? No. So how could we reframe that as open? So it might be, what steps can we take towards understanding how this illness is affecting you? Or can you describe to me any ways in which you think your behaviour has changed recently? Or it must be so confusing for you when you feel fine and everyone around you is worried about your health. So real pennies in the piggy bank to sort of see, you know, is there any small part of them that is starting to think that maybe they would appreciate some help with their illness. Okay, number 4, in what ways has anorexia been a problem for you? Okay, so that's open. It could be seen as a leading question if they're in pre-contemplation. But let's assume that they have admitted that anorexia is a problem, so then it's an open question. An alternative might be, help me understand how anorexia is affecting you on a day-to-day basis. But yeah, it's difficult, that one, because it could be seen as leading, but it could be seen as open. Number 5, have you any thoughts on what you might do to care for your nutritional health? So obviously that's an open question inviting the sufferer to elaborate on the answer. And the nutritional risk ruler is really helpful here. So it's a slightly more focused version of the readiness ruler, and there'll be a video on that later on. Why haven't you been to see the dietitian? So first of all, the why, judgemental. I think you should have gone to the dietitian. Why didn't you go? So it's likely to be met with anger and resistance. So it's a bit inflammatory. So reframing it as open, what do you think about seeing a dietitian? Or help me understand your reluctance to see a dietitian, might keep the door open. Number 7, is there any way I can help you stick to your plan? So it's an open question in spirit, but it could be answered with a no, but it's conveying that you do want to help. So an alternative might be, help me understand what I or anyone else can do to help you stick to your plan. So it's not just about you being able to help them, it's helping them to think that there's a big support network of people around them that they can always tap into. So again, pennies in the piggy bank. Okay, so don't be put off when you get, you know, you practice open questions, you get really good with your open questions. Remember that you don't want to ask too many questions in a row. So every time you ask a question, the guideline is that you then listen, wait for the answer, listen, and then you shower them with reflections and affirmations before you ask the next open question. But even if your open question is answered with a grunt, that you've still sown the seed that you're there to have the conversation if and when they want to. If, which often happens, the sufferer answers your question with an absolute tirade of abusive language or a huge emotional outburst, then listen very carefully to what they say, and then it's like a gift, isn't it? And then you can reflect back and give them affirmations. So thank you for telling me how you're feeling. Guessing you're upset because nobody is listening and nobody understands. I would be upset too. So we come back to that when we look at the emotion focused approach in a later video. You're angry, sad, frustrated, fed up, exhausted. So noticing the emotions is really powerful. Okay, so as always with this approach, with the motivational approach, so patience is a virtue, along with compassion, kindness and empathy. And then if you can add in, you know, and if you can practice this open questioning style, it always is going to open the door, isn't it, to future conversations, and conveys empathy with the struggles that they're facing. Okay, thank you for watching this video. All of the worksheets and the videos can be found at www.newmaudslaycarers-kent.co.uk. Thank you.